and an honor. Buongiorno, hola, hello, bonjour. If my letters are sticking together, it's because I need to irrigate my nasal and throat passageway. It's like a clogged waistline of a kitchen sink, and there's all this gook in there that needs to get sucked and gutted out. I'm going to begin that process tonight. I keep saying that I'm going to do it and don't do it, and so what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it today, tonight. Now, on to this video log. This one is an honor for me. Well, they all are. But here it is. So, in June of 2015, I got linked with former major recording artist Huapo Apex Bibbs out of Atlanta, Georgia. And we became Facebook friends. And he was mentored by the godfather of black music himself, Mr. Clarence AVANT. Clarence AVANT was the lifetime tour manager for Louis Armstrong. After being the lifetime career tour manager for Louis Armstrong, Clarence AVANT then established and founded and formed his own record label, independent record label, in the late 60s called Buddha Records. He then mentored Neil Bogart during the late 60s. Neil Bogart would then, 5 years later, form his own independent record label called Casablanca Records, as in the super legendary historic Casablanca Records that signed as its first roster act the kings of hard glam rock, Kiss. They signed Kiss to a recording contract in 1973, and Casablanca Records released the Kiss album debut titled Kiss in January of 1974. Okay. Now, when Neil Bogart was mentored and under the tutelage of the godfather of black music, Clarence AVANT, during the late 60s, as a member of Buddha Records label, Neil Bogart, I believe, was involved in the signing recording contract of Bill Withers, as in "Ain't no sunshine when she's gone." Right, and what's the other super classic Bill Withers song? I think it's "Lean on Me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you, oh carry on." Right. So, yes. So let's redirect back to Huapo Apex Bibbs. Huapo, who was mentored by Clarence AVANT of Buddha Records and former lifetime tour manager of Louis Armstrong, and Clarence AVANT, who also mentored Neil Bogart, who would form and own Casablanca Records, as depicted in the movie released this year called Spinning Gold. That Neil Bogart. There was a motion picture film released this 2023 called Spinning Gold. It's the story of Neil Bogart, the founder and president of Casablanca Records and FILMWORKS Incorporated. And again, Kiss was his record label's first signed act. Again, he was mentored by Clarence AVANT, the godfather of black music. And the Kiss album debut, titled Kiss, that was released by Neil Bogart January of 1974 on his record label Casablanca Records, was recorded in Bell Studios in Manhattan, New York City, New York. And guess who was the owner of that recording studio, where Kiss recorded and laid down the tracks for their entire album debut? Bell Studio in Manhattan, New York City, New York was owned by the godfather of black music, Clarence Avant. There you go. How do you like that? So, let's go back to WAPO Apex Bibbs. WAPO was a part of an R&B soul pop group called Too Close. My Roman Latin numeral 2, and then word spaced CLOSE. So Too Close. And they were on Herb Alpert's record label, A&M Records. At the time that Too Close was signed to A&M Records, one of their very top recording artists of that label was Janet Jackson, who is, the other queen of R&B soul pop. And of course, the sister of the king of pop. So A&M Records, founded by Herb Alpert, of the classic song Rise. Now, Rise was sampled and used for the Notorious B.I.G.'s classic song Hypnotize, off of the Life After Death double LP album. Okay. So that's WAPO. Apex Bibbs of Too Close, formerly of A&M Records, and his band, when they were together and signed with A&M Records, got to open up for TLC. Yeah. As in the most successful all-female pop group in the history of the U.S. TLC sold 65 million records worldwide. I believe that TLC is still the highest selling all-female pop group of this country's history. Yes. Yeah, TLC, highest selling female group of this country's history. So, and they were out of Atlanta, Georgia. You see the link here? And WAPO Apex Bibbs, if I recall, shared with me that he had ties and access to members of LaFace Records, as in Kenneth Babyface Edmonds and L.A. Reid. And it was L.A. Reid, if I'm correct, who gave TLC their recording contract. See how this is all connected? And L.A. Reid was married at the time to the major recording artist Pebbles, as depicted in the TLC BIO-PIC movie. So WAPO has ties to LaFace Records and every major record label of hip-hop history and culture straight out of Atlanta, Georgia. And he now has his own podcast show, if he's still doing it, called I believe it's called Inner Vision Podcast, hosted by WAPO Apex Bibbs. Okay. Now, what a lot of people may also not know is that Casablanca Records and FilmWorks INC put out a movie. One of my dad and I's all-time very top favorite movies of all of the hundreds of classics and cult classics we saw during opening premiere day and night throughout historic legendary landmark movie theaters of our city, the District of Columbia, Estrada, and on TV. Midnight Express was produced and released by Casablanca Records and FilmWorks Incorporated. It won Best Picture of the Year at the 1979 Oscars, and the star actor who portrayed the lead character of Midnight Express, he won Best Actor of the Year at the 1979 Oscars. So, and they Casablanca, Clarence Avant's mentored future record producers, signed Kiss, Donna Summer, Gladys Knight, Parliament, Lips Inc., and Cher, and the Village People, and the groundbreaking soundtrack composer of the Midnight Express movie, on behalf of Casablanca Records and FilmWorks INC. Okay, so I do plan on reconnecting with Huapo Apex Bibbs, formerly of Too Close, formerly signed to A&M Records, former record label roster mate of Janet Jackson, and whose group got to open up for TLC. Okay, maybe I'll do an interview on his podcast show, Intervision ATL Podcast, as in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, that's a wrap on this one. Okay. Again, the entire top to bottom album debut of Kiss was recorded in the owned recording studio of the Godfather of Black Music, Clarence Avant, which was Bell Studio in Manhattan, New York City, New York. And Clarence Avant was called the Godfather of Black Music by Billboard magazine. And he was placed on the front cover of Billboard magazine, I believe, for his 75th birthday. So, Clarence Avant is no longer with us. I believe my understanding is that he passed away recently, not long after the death of his wife and lifetime partner. And it's a very tragic story. Both Clarence Avant and his wife in their, I believe, early to mid 80s, living in Los Angeles. It was last year, or the tail end of the year before last. And a criminal broke into their residence. I believe crept in through the sliding glass door and took the life of Clarence Avant's lifetime partner and wife in her early 80s, who was revered and respected throughout the very top echelons of the major recording industry and elsewhere. And perhaps it was just too much to bear for Clarence Avant himself. So I believe he passed away sometime last year or earlier this year. I'll double check on Clarence Avant. But he was also such a significant figure that whenever Michael Jackson, the king of pop, would have any issues, whenever he needed counsel or advice or coaching on a behind-the-scenes personal level, Michael Jackson, from what I learned, would telephone Clarence Avant, the Godfather of Black Music, to guide him, to counsel him, to coach him over the phone in telephonic conversations. So from Michael Jackson calling him when Michael Jackson was needing someone to coach and manage him, to his studio being used for the Kiss album debut, to him being the tour manager of Louis Armstrong throughout a very good portion of Louis Armstrong's career. Clarence Avant, man. Yeah. And he even mentored the man who would be the founder and president of Casablanca Records that the movie Spinning Gold is based off of. So this is how significant Clarence Avant is and was behind the scenes in the equation of things. So I remember when I asked Huapo Apex Bibbs, I said, look, Huapo, would you be willing to talk to Clarence Avant and tell him about me? You know, break it down the best way you can and see if he would consider talking to me. And Huapo Apex Bibbs communicated with the godfather of black music, Clarence Avant, about me. And Clarence's answer, according to WAPO, was, we'll see. We'll see how things go. It's possible that I would be willing to talk to Jorge Estrada on the phone. All right, guys. Well, it didn't happen, but everything else I said did. And it's Jorge Estrada, DC, the Roman Emperor of Nuke All Clearism. And this video log is in honor of Clarence Avant. And also, if Huapo learns of this, I'll let him know to reconnect with him eventually. All right.